Hey everybody, who's hungry for a good vegetable? I certainly am. Today we're going to have oven roasted cabbage. Now cabbage can be boring. I'll be the first to admit that. If you just steam it or put it in a pot with a little bit of water, then it can be kind of boring if you do that all the time. But there's so many ways to fix cabbage. You can make a cabbage casserole, and I have a wonderful recipe in my recipe book for cabbage casserole. But today we're going to do oven roasted cabbage, and I already have my oven preheating to 425 degrees. I have just a piece of cabbage that I had left in my refrigerator. It's about a pound. We're going to cut this up. We'll do that together, and then we're just going to add 3 simple ingredients or spices to it, and so it's going to be so delicious. You can make cabbage steaks, you can make cabbage wedges in the oven, but today I'm just going to chop ours up, and it's going to be like little ribbons. And let's get busy and get started so that we can have this for lunch. Okay, let's get busy and cut up this little piece of cabbage that I have here. You can tell that this is the center of the cabbage, and that's called the core for those young people who might not know that. So we're just going to cut this into quarters. Now I've already used a quarter of this, so really I have 3/4 of a piece of cabbage is what I have. So now I'm going to cut this core out. Now a lot of people leave it in there, and that's fine if you want to, but it's kind of tough, so it doesn't do away with much of the cabbage. So I'm just cutting mine out right here. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut mine into strips. So I'm just going to cut it just like this. You could turn it over and cut it the other way. There's no particular way that you need to cut it, but this will make pretty little ribbons in cutting your cabbage this way. So now I'm just going to flip it over, cut it like that. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no perfect way to cut it. You just cut it being very careful not to cut your fingers. So, whoops, that slipped down, didn't it? So be very careful. And then I'm just going to take my hands on this side and cut it that way. So there we have that. I'm just going to slide that right over, and we'll continue cutting. I mentioned that you can make cabbage wedges. You can make cabbage steaks. To make the cabbage steaks, you just cut cabbage rounds. That's pretty if you're trying to impress your guest or your family. I made some recently, and they were delicious, and they're well received. And people say, oh goodness, I didn't know you could do that with cabbage. Well, there are just so many ways to use cabbage. It's so good for you. It's full of water. It's full of nutrients. It doesn't break the bank. To have a wonderful dessert or a vegetable. I've got sweets on the brain. Oh my goodness. Can't believe I said desserts, and here I am chopping cabbage. Can you imagine such a thing? Look how much cabbage, just this, about a pound. I would say about a pound of cabbage. So now we're going to just place this cabbage on this little quarter baking sheet that I have here, and I've lined mine with parchment paper. The reason that I lined it with parchment paper is for easy cleanup. So I'm just placing my cabbage on the parchment paper, just like this. And now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to drizzle some extra light olive oil on mine. You could use avocado oil or any kind of oil really that you want to. So I'm just drizzling that over the cabbage. And now I'm using sea salt today. You could use regular salt. You could use kosher salt. You could use any kind of seasoning that you want to. Now I'm going to add some black pepper. This is just out of a can. You could use the ground black pepper if you wanted to. So I'm just sprinkling that on top. Sometimes I'll add other seasonings, and some suggestions for other seasonings might be a Cajun season. That would be good. And you know what? The seasoning, All Things Bagel, that's a really good seasoning too. You wouldn't think of it on cabbage, but it is really, really good. So what you want to do is to kind of spread this out like into one layer. And I could have even used a larger baking pan here. So if you're roasting more cabbage, you'll just get a larger baking pan. And again, I lined mine with parchment paper to help with the cleanup process, because I don't like to scrub my pots and pans. I just like for them to clean up really, really easy. So now we're placing this in the oven on 425 degrees. I'm going to roast the cabbage for about 20 minutes. At that point, I'm going to open the oven and stir it. And then I'll spread it out evenly again and put it back in the oven and roast it probably another 15 minutes. Now, it depends on how brown and how roasted you like your vegetables as to how long you'll bake it. Some people will bake it less, some people will bake it more. You just want it to be tender, and the roasting brings out, it kind of caramelizes the cabbage. So I'm going to put this in the oven, and when it gets done, I'll come back and I'll show it to you. Okay, our oven roasted cabbage is ready to come out of the oven, and y'all, I went back and added some everything bagel spice to this. I tasted it and I felt like it needed something else, and I added that, and I'll talk about that in just a minute and give you a little bit more information about that. But look at this, it is going to be so, so delicious. Okay, y'all, our oven roasted cabbage is out of the oven, and I wanted to tell you again, I went back and added some everything bagel seasoning to the cabbage, and it made all the difference in the world. So I'm going to just take some of this out on a fork. I'm going to leave it here on this pan. I'm going to bring it over to you, and I'm going to show it to you. This is everything bagel, and it comes in different brands. I'm not advertising. This happens to be Spice Islands, and it's everything bagel, and y'all, it is so, so good. Look at this oven roasted cabbage. I'm going to taste it. I hope it's not too hot. That is so, so delicious. Put some everything bagel on it, or any other seasoning that you might like, but this is so, so good. It tastes caramelized, it's sweet, yet it's salty. It is so, so good. I hope you'll make some oven roasted cabbage real, real soon, and don't forget to share our video. And I'll be back with another good recipe before you know it.